Really excited to talk with Dayton men's basketball assistant coach James Kane. Appreciate you giving us a few minutes.
Thanks for having me.
I want to go back. You are a Florida Gator. Your career starts in the Sunshine State. And sort of when we have these discussions, I think a lot of people, they look at coaches and there's this like playing background. Mm-hmm. But there's another part of it, and there's so many of them that I think sometimes people like forget, is there's just a love for the game. Former players, maybe they don't play at the college level, but they're somehow involved. And that's sort of your story at Florida.
Yeah, growing up, I just loved the game of basketball. Played outdoors, played in the parks. I grew up a Miami Hurricane in South Florida. Found out that Miami was a private school, so I went to the University of Florida. Became a Gator. Loved Gator Nation, and that's where I wanted to still be part of a team. I didn't want to lose that aspect of my life, like not being part of a team. So I got involved heavily with intramurals. And then, I got involved with the women's basketball team at Florida under Carolyn Peck. She took me in under her wing, and she took care of me, and I became a practice player for her, worked in the office, and I was able to stay around basketball during my college time there.
And just in like the office space of being in the building, you cross paths with an assistant for the men's side, mm-hmm. and Anthony Grant. And that's kind of a game changer for you and where you went mm-hmm. in your coaching career.
Yeah, meeting him was probably the best thing that ever happened in my life in terms of just getting around the right people. Being able to learn from him. My senior year, we met each other. Spoke to him in his office. He helped me with a couple things I was trying to get involved with as an internship once I graduated from Florida. And, we stayed connected, built a relationship, and, from the grace of God, I came back to Florida, and I ran into him in the back stairwell when he was cleaning out his office to go to VCU, because he just became the head coach at VCU, and we started talking, him and his wife, Chris. I remember like it was yesterday, and he was able to give me an opportunity to follow him to VCU, and that was about 20 years ago. So I've known him for 20 years, and it goes beyond basketball with him. He's family for life, and I'll be always indebted to him, for everything he has done for me.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're thinking about your master's, mm-hmm. and then this opportunity comes about, and then it's a quick trip to Richmond, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think back. I went back to the University of Florida to the plan was to get my master's. Got that opportunity from Coach. Got my master's at VCU Sport Leadership with Doc Sanders, but it happened so quickly that when he told me to make the move or to come up there, I just packed everything in my car, and I literally didn't have a place to stay. That I didn't know where I was staying that night. Called Brett Nelson, one of my good buddies in this business. He was the director of basketball at that time, and Brett was like, "Hey, we'll just figure it out." I had probably a 6-hour drive, so I was like, we'll figure it out on the way up there, and fortunately I was able to find a place to stay that night, and then Coach got me situated after that.
Oh, to be young. At VCU, one guard that I always really valued, and being a basketball fan, was Eric Maynor. And mm-hmm. you have so many guards that you've been able to work with. It's really an incredible list. And I mentioned Eric and what he was, and a fantastic player. And then Murray State and Cameron Payne and John Morant. And, of course, Flyer fans know of Jalen Crutcher, Tyrese Halliburton in your stop at Iowa State. Is there something that you look for in particular when you're on that recruiting trail and trying to find a guard? And does it come from some of those amazing players that you've been able to coach?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I've been very blessed to be around those type of players, those guards. Learning from each and every one of them has helped me grow in my career. In terms of looking for specific things that a point guard has, I just, the number one thing I would say is competitive nature. And then do they make people around them better? So, each and every one of those point guards with Maynard, Isaiah Cannon, Cameron Payne, Ja, Crutch, and Hallie, they're all different. They're all different, and a lot of it's luck to be around those type of guys, but then, you're not taking full advantage of the opportunity if you're not learning from them. So, I would just say just the intangibles of being a leader, being an energy guy, a lot of them had those qualities, and it's what makes them great. So, if you come down to my man cave at home, it's pretty, if you sit back and watch, I just got a couple jerseys and pictures. I mean, I've been truly blessed being part of their lives, and they've helped me tremendously.
It's so hard to make the NBA. I don't know if people necessarily can grasp just how significant it is to play at that level. Mm-hmm. But when you see those guys sort of in college and then be able to play in the league, mm-hmm. do you even sort of marvel at how many that you've been able to coach and the path that you've been able to walk down?
It's pretty cool to just sit there and watch them play. They leave tickets for myself and for the coaches, and just sitting back and being a fan. You don't have to necessarily coach and worry about X's and O's. You can actually enjoy the game and watch them live out their dream. And to me, that's what it's all about. Being able to just sit back and relax and watch those guys become all-stars, those guys become role players in the NBA, those guys having a career, living out their dreams. Is just that's why we're in this business, to help them fulfill their dreams.
Do you look back at some of the places where you saw these guys for the first time? I want to sort of get confirmation, because I told someone I was setting up, we were doing this interview, and they said, well, a bag of chips was the reason why you found John Morant. And I kind of turned my head. Is that story true? And sort of on that recruiting path, how neat is it to watch the journey?
Yeah, in terms of Ja, the story, I think everyone knows it by now. It's I went and drove to Spartanburg, South Carolina for a one-day combine. Watched the combine for like 45 minutes, and then I was just hungry. So I just asked my buddy, Chris Monroe. I asked him. I said, "Hey man, do you have a coach's locker room or a coach's table to get some food?" And he told me that there was a concession stand in the back. So I just went back there, just got in line and heard some balls bouncing, and saw another buddy of mine that was running the camp, Anthony Ricks. Started talking to him. Went to the back gym, and there was Ja playing 3-on-3. So once I watched him play 3-on-3 for about 5-10 minutes, he just caught my eye. And then you have to do your homework from there. You have to follow up from there. And like I said in the beginning, some of this is luck, and that was luck there. And I'm just happy to see him fulfill his dream and being able to watch him play in the NBA and take care of his family. And I'm excited for all of them.
Jalen Crutcher is a guy, and sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, John Morant, that recruiting process, but then you end up leaving Murray, mm-hmm. and then Jalen Crutcher from like the recruiting process, you come here to Dayton, they're looking for a guard, mm-hmm. and it's this young guy who you felt like had something in some serious game, and then Flyer fans obviously know what took place after that. But I think even with all the guards that we've sort of mentioned, they all sort of have something similar in that they're really smooth. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair testament?
Yeah, I like smooth guards. I like smooth players. With Crutch, we were able to watch him at Murray. He used to come to team camp at Murray. He's from Memphis, so that's 3 hours away. And when I came to Dayton and Coach Grant got the job, we needed a point guard, right? And so that was one that was on the board for us. Had to go watch him in the April live period because he decommitted from Chattanooga, so he was available on the market. So he was going to go play, as an unsigned senior in April period, and went down there to Atlanta. And I've already seen him before. I knew he was smooth. He was small. you know, to say the least. So it was like, okay, can he handle this type of environment and competition at a young age? He was 17 when he walked through the door. So I was down there in Atlanta. We watched him as a staff, and you know, he was hitting shots left and right. You know, he hit like 7 threes one game. Couple Power 5 schools were talking about prepping him for a year, and now we were like, you know, come here. You know, come here. And there's already a relationship there, and you know, the rest is history. And you know, he was extremely talented, high IQ, and like we know, he's a big time shot maker, and he did that throughout his career in high school. He hit game winners left and right.
Amongst the guard position, and even now, what's the most important trait for a point guard to have in sort of your team?
Well, I look at, like I said earlier, I look at competitive character. They have to be a winner. They have to be a winner. If you're going to run a team, if you're going to be the quarterback of a team, you got to have winning characteristics. You have to have high energy, in my opinion. And then, you know, in terms of style of play, you have to be able to play in pick and roll. You have to read the defense. You have to make guys better around you. You have to manage the game. So there's a lot that comes in to looking at a point guard. You know, it's the head of the snake. It's the most, to me, it's the most valuable position on the floor because the ball's in their hands. So, you know, to me, they have to be like another coach. I'm
glad that you said pick and roll, because that's kind of what I take from some of those players that we had mentioned, and just sort of the style and watching the Flyers as we see it today. It seems simple, but how hard is it? And I kind of go back to, again, these players that we're focusing on. It's like where I feel Tyrese Halliburton separates himself is just how good he is in that and reading that. Mm-hmm. Does that take time in trying to sort of figure that out amongst playing with the screener?
Yeah, in terms of pick and roll execution, I think there's a lot that goes into it. If it was easy, everyone would do it, you know. But you know, the guys that separate themselves are the ones that take pride in their craft. You know, watching film, working on it religiously every single day, learning how to read. Not the two defenders guarding you, but learning how to read the help side defense. You know, everyone. If you ask Ja, if you ask Tyrese, the guys that are playing at the highest level right now, you know, they probably have been thrown the kitchen sink at them in terms of defenses, so they've probably seen everything. And, you know, to me, I actually pick their brains and say, hey, you know, what gives you the most trouble in terms of a team defending you, and what don't you like? Because if I ever come up against a guy that's your caliber, I'm going to try to do the same thing. So, you know, like I said, you have to learn from those guys, and you know, I think you really don't know how much work they put into it unless you're around them. And, you know, I'll share a quick story with Tyrese Halliburton. I went to the Indiana Pacers game. I forgot who they were playing, but, you know, he went 1 for 11 from the 3, I believe. And after the game, he's in the practice gym shooting for 2 hours, working on his craft. And I'm sitting there, you know, rebounding for him. And you know, the general public doesn't know that, you know, but those guys have pride in what they do, you know, and that's what makes them great.
James, appreciate your time, appreciate the energy, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.